On this week's episode of the Y Marketing Podcast, we have Marissa Freeman, who is the Chief Brand Officer for HPE. I had a lot of fun talking with Marissa about her role at HPE, how she became an advocate for women in technology. And if that's not enough, we also talked a little bit about the chicken wars. So now let's jump right into this week's show with Marissa telling me about how she got started out in marketing.
I started my career in agencies. Spent probably a little more than the first half of my career working for some of the craziest and most wonderful creative agencies in the world. I was at BBDO, TDB, Delphina, Cliff Freeman, legends, lots of them. And I just always gravitated toward the most creative shots. I'm a business person, I'm a strategist, but I suppose on some level I'm a frustrated creative. So I mashed them all up. And then midway through my career, I became pregnant with twins, and I wanted to make the switch to the client side. I was lucky enough to have been running the direct TV advertising account, and we were doing a pretty bang up job of beating the crap out of cable. And so one of the cable companies recruited me to come inside, be the SVP of marketing at Time Warner Cable. Used all that knowledge I had about cable and satellite, and I kind of turned the mirror around, and we started winning. And we did really well with it and repositioned the cable company as more of an entertainment company. It was hard. It's like you always want to work for a brand or a category that people love. It makes your job so much easier. The hardest thing to do is to try to sell something to people who have a negative opinion of you. Big challenge. It was tough, but it was also fun and exciting. Got to work with sports properties and entertainment properties, HBO, Showtime, MLB, NFL, ESPN, everybody. It was super fun and gave me a good foundation. And then I got the job here at HPE. It was HP then and now HPE.
I think it'd be super interesting to actually have you back on just to have an entire episode talking about the satellite and cable wars. But for right now, can you unpack for us the difference between HP and HPE?
Sure. HP has been around for 82 years. When I joined the company, it was one big company. They had bought Compaq and other companies and merged into this huge technology sort of conglomerate and had printers and PCs, which everybody knows HP for. Then there was this whole other side of the business that was responsible for a ton of revenue and innovation and technology, and that was the enterprise side of the house. So anything having to do with high performance computing, cloud, security, exascale computing, like AI, things that, right now are on the tip of everyone's tongue, but 4 or 5 years ago were just starting to become, cloud certainly has taken over the world, and riding that wave, everything comes with it. And so I was given the opportunity to choose which part of the company I wanted to go forward with. At the time when we split into two companies, I had to stand up 2 brand teams and relaunch HP as the new entity with a refresh of the positioning, not too different, and then launch completely a new company and a new brand. And for me personally, I was so intrigued by what technology is bringing to the world and how it's changing the world that I wanted to go with what I think is the more future forward innovative space in the enterprise side. So that's the difference between the two companies.
And I feel fortunate because I get to talk to folks like yourself who are working with these different technologies. I'm just like, what? Y'all are doing what? So
it's great going to Harvard every day. And there's so much to learn and so much to take in. I never feel like I'm making a dent in it, but I am. Yeah. It's just a lot of learning all the time. Things change so quickly. That's what makes it exciting.
Absolutely. So how do you spend your day typically?
Oh my goodness. It's funny because, I'll go from giving a panel on, women in technology and talking about what HPE is doing from a branding perspective to include more women in recruitment, but also how we project ourselves in the marketplace. So I spend a lot of time talking about unconscious bias in our photo library because I'm responsible for the brand image worldwide, brand identity, including over 200,000 photos in our brand library that most of them we've taken ourselves, but some that we buy, and going through that and weeding out any photography that demonstrates unconscious bias against all people.
Yeah.
It's very exciting, so that's brand identity piece, redesigning the logo and refreshing the identity to be more dynamic and colorful and digital ready, to being on a Women in Boards readiness program and being sent to an offsite with 2 female members of our board of directors and 4 recruiters from 2 of the top recruiting firms, taking 15 women from HPE and putting them through a boot camp public board readiness. And I'm so grateful to my company that they even do that, because most companies don't want their executives on outside boards. It takes up too much of their time and mind space. But the flip side of that is the experience that you get is such a growth opportunity, not just for yourself, but for your mind. You bring that back, all those learnings. You then drive that through your organization. So in my day, it goes from looking at photos and meeting with ad agencies and coming up with creative concepts to getting ready for board readiness to then, the big heavy lifting of budgeting and finance and strategic planning and managing the data tech stacks or the media buying. It's a lot. It's fun. Never a dull moment, that's for sure.
How do you think that having that experience early on in your career and kind of coming up through the agency world really kind of helped prepare you for where you are today?
I have to say that having exposure to the various businesses coming up through the ranks of the agency side. Some agency folks work on automotive, for example, their whole career, and that's all they do. And then there are the ones like me who bounced from, the .com era. I worked on Disney.go.com. Remember Go.com? I worked on that. I worked on Pitney Bowes. I worked on Warnaco, Speedo, Coty Fragrances, Office Depot, Staples, Time Warner Cable, DirecTV, retail, CPG. I worked on Gillette. I worked on P&G. The business rigor and the competitive insights and ways of looking at a business problem in each of those different areas, all of that's transferable. And so you just open your mind. I look at now, we compete head to head with Dell on a lot of, and IBM and Cisco. And I'll look at some of the ads that they're running or some of the ways that we're talking about considering our products and services over there. And I'll think back to my cable days of, DirecTV and Time Warner Cable going head to head on point by point by point by point. It's depositioning at its best. It's competitive slugfest. Now, our brand, we're quote unquote gentlemen and ladies, the way we approach competitive. But there's still a way to make yourself shine, and deploying all the tactics that I learned in retail, they work. They work everywhere. So for me, all of that experience at the agencies with those various different business leaders, boardroom conversations, backroom conversations, they help me every single day.
Just even like you mentioned DirecTV and Time Warner when they used to just kind of go head to head. Being in those competitive type of segments where you have big competitors that you're having to really differentiate yourself. I mean, I was talking to Matt Prescher and CMO of Force Point a couple months ago, and he was talking about he calls that the Sea of Sameness, where, how do you get yourself out of that? And so many marketers find themselves just kind of repeating and doing the same thing just because it kind of mirrors what they are seeing out there in the market. Being a creative mind, how do you keep pushing the envelope?
It's hard to step out of the echo chamber, especially the longer you remain inside the 4 walls of a company. We have brilliant agency partners. I really am super proud of the relationship we have with Publicis. We work with multiple agencies in the network, and they challenge us, and I challenge them right back to ensure that we do not get lost in the sea of sameness. If you look at our creative over the last 3 or 4 years, and before then too, but we've been with them now 3 years. It definitely stands out completely different from the category. I mean, 1,000% different. And it's very much customer insight driven. We know that when a CIO and his or her team look at the ads or the messaging, they're looking at it and going, yeah, they get me. That's right. That's my problem. And that's how I need to solve it. It touches them in some emotional way. So I think we actively rail against the Sea of Sameness.
Yeah, I mean, approaching it from a human perspective and, hey, they have to buy and they're looking for, how do I educate myself on the problem that I've got? And when I can see a solution, it makes it so much easier. Speaking of the buying journey, buyers come into this, into every product now already knowing pretty much everything they can know on the front end about what you're offering. How does that either make your job harder or easier?
Well, in our category, about 80% of the research into buying one of our products or services is done before they ever speak to a salesperson, they being the customer. So they're reading third-party, information about the category, they read articles. So we spend a lot of time understanding where those folks are and where they're looking for information and making sure we meet them where they are. So be that with advertising or thought leadership, or even becoming embedded in the content itself in some way. We do that with search, sort of ensure that even when a competitor is talking about a topic that, we know our customers are interested in, we will show up with a social post or an article or a LinkedIn post or an ad right adjacent to that editorial. And I love branded content. I really have become like the poster child for creating branded content with our publishing partners.
I gotta admit, I love branded content too. And one of the best companies out there doing it right now, in my opinion, is Burger King. They're taking on McDonald's head to head and they're winning. Fernando, who's their CMO, is crazy creative and not afraid to challenge the norm. And that's been paying off big time for that brand. I think he's even now helping out and doing the same thing for Popeyes, which is owned by the same parent company as Burger King. I think Popeyes is now taking on Chick-fil-A and these chicken wars you probably heard about. But I will tell you one thing, it gets people talking.
It is. And sometimes it can go wildly wrong. I think it was the competitor's tweet that started that firestorm and sold out the chicken sandwich for the other side.
Yeah.
You roll the dice. I think everybody's winning on in the chicken wars right now because it's
unless you're a chicken.
Unless you're a chicken.
Then you're not. You're running for the hills.
And it's really bad.
It's not very good.
You better run.
Yeah. So what's the next evolution for HP? What are you really getting fired up and excited about that's coming down the pipeline?
Super excited about the way the technology market is shaking out. There was this sort of black and white. Either you were able to be in the cloud with your tech, or there were just a whole bunch of things you weren't able to put in the cloud. That remains true, but that doesn't mean that you can't have that cloud-like experience of as a service, so only paying for what you use. The ease of just sort of swiping your credit card and being able to spin up some sort of app or job or create what you need to create without going through a lot of pain there's an expression here that we call building the church for Easter Sunday. You don't have to build the whole church that gets everybody on Easter Sunday when, every other week of the year about, 1/18 of those folks are showing up. So it's the idea of only paying for what you use and having a great experience, just like when you call an Uber or mobile banking, that digital experience that everyone is loving traditionally wasn't something that you could do with your typical quote unquote apps and workloads that you run. I know I'm getting a little technical, but basically what it is saying not the cloud, now the public cloud is not the only domain for ease of doing business and quick path to innovation. We're now as a company enabling everything that you do with your IT to be as easy as you perceive Amazon or Google public cloud to be.
Yeah.
Making that shift and realizing that creating that customer experience and the ease of doing business with us is the way of the future. And we're pretty far in the lead against our direct competitors, very far in the lead. That for me is such an exciting opportunity to be able to make our customers' lives easier and make their jobs easier, make them choose us over everybody else because of that and because of the innovation that we bring. I love it. It's very, I'm proud of it, and I can't wait to start talking about it even more.
Yeah. So I guess the next thing is how do you maintain that lead, right? You've built it. Now, how do you maintain that against what is coming up next? Who are the people you're watching out for? Yeah, those are always the challenge, is making sure you earned it, keep it.
Absolutely. And, people think that all technologies compete 100% on innovation, all technology companies. That's not true. We're all pretty much, a year or two apart from each other on any given thing. What we choose to compete on in addition to that is customer experience, loyalty, partnership, openness. There's in our category, you could be the kind of technology company that boxes people in. If you're going to work with us, you're only going to use our stuff. It's one closed ecosystem, and the switching cost for you will be so enormous you'll never leave us. We don't want that kind of relationship. We want our technology to be the basis for what you do, but we work beautifully with all of the other technology partners that you work with so that we can make your life easier. It's an open ecosystem when you work with us. And we try to make sure that we have the ability to know the roadmap and the blueprint for your business and what's right for you, so we can help you choose the best-in-class partners and run everything the way you want to run it. That's right for you. So we base our business on partnership, relationships, innovation, like for you. We're going to make your business run right, and then our business will run right.
I like that you talked about the customer experience, because to me, I think that's really so important in today's economy, is the fact that we're all humans and we all want to have a great experience. I mean, we have choices, and it's not hard to make a change the way everything is set up now, especially the cloud. I mean, we're used to having software work easily with other products and services. I mean, just look at this, all the marketing automation software out there. I mean, it's just, it's crazy. And how many, where one ends, where one's, they overlap, but yet you still have software that works together, but they're competitors. And I'm going through that whole life.
Don't try to wrap your head around it. Don't.
It's maddening right now. Yeah.
I know. And essentially, I have so many incredible people who both work here in our marketing analytics department, in my media team, and my social media team, that understand the platforms and the programs and the software. And then, of course, our agency partners who really, really, really get it. And when I look at the chart of the partners that you could work with, and even then the ones that we work with, there are hundreds in my staff and thousands to choose from. Thousands and thousands. I leave that to the experts. I tell them what I need, tell them what I want to pay, and then they go bring it back to me.
That's where I need to get to. I need to get to that spot where I can just say, go make it happen. I'm doing it. Now I'm like, oh my gosh, it's crazy. Well, this has been fun. Before we wrap up, I want to go through our speed round, and we'll wrap it up from there. So, favorite song?
Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic.
Best day of the week?
Oh, Saturday.
Okay. Halloween or Easter?
Oh, Halloween.
Do you like to dress up for Halloween?
I take my kids out. I dress my kids up. I dress up.
I like that. That's the way it should be.
Yeah.
And last thing, what's one piece of advice that you wish you had been given prior to starting out your career?
I have this thing that I do. I speak to women about their careers, and usually they're women who are already, partly on their way, like director level. So I guess, early career, I wish somebody had said to me what I say to the women that I talk to, and that act like a 30-year-old guy. Raise your hand. They put me in, coach. If there's a choice assignment on the table and you don't have experience at it, but you think you can do it, ask for it. Don't be afraid to do something you've never done before. Have confidence in your ability. You don't have to have the experience. You will get the experience, and you will get the help that you need if you just ask for it. So I think having that confidence in yourself is not something that most young women come ready with. Maybe now they do, and I hope to God I'm raising my daughter that way. But I wasn't that way, and most of my peers weren't that way. And we still have a little bit of the imposter syndrome. And I say, throw it out the door. Act like a 30-year-old guy. Go in there and win.
I like that. That's awesome. That's fun. That holds true for everybody. You got to be willing to put yourself out there. Bet on yourself. you can't bet on yourself, and how can you ask anybody else to bet on
you? Exactly. Perfectly said.
Occasionally I get one right. You've brought up a lot of work that you do for women. It seems like you spend a lot of time talking to women, women's groups, empowerment, stuff like that. Sounds like that's also a personal passion as well as part of what you do day to day within work.
It is a personal passion. It always has been. And as I mentioned, I have a son and a daughter, and they're twins. And so I want them to both grow up believing in the power of women and raising strong women themselves. But I'm also in an industry that's predominantly men. So they call upon women leaders in my industry to speak out and to lead and to be part of the change. And so I'm lucky enough to be, one of few women trying to make that better.
I love it. It sounds like you're really leaning on your voice to help make that change happen. So, Marissa, are there any other groups or conferences that you're involved with that you would like folks to know about?
You know what I would like to promote that has anything to do with me? It's a conference that I love. It's Tina Brown's Women in the World. It happens every spring. And it's not just for women. It's at Lincoln Center in New York. It's her, I believe, CMO. She runs the event, and she does an incredible job, and I recommend it to every person in the world to attend.
What a great recommendation. I love that. We'll definitely make sure we add Tina Brown's conference information to our podcast notes, so that way all of our listeners can access it and learn more about it.
Excellent.
But unfortunately, I guess that now means that we are at the end of this week's show. What a fun time I had talking with you, and I'm really glad we were able to make this work out.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
Anytime,
so much.
Okay?
All right.
My pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning into the Why Marketing Podcast. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or anywhere else you listen to podcasts. And give us a 5-star rating while you're at it. Until the next time.